Alright, so what's up, folks? Rich Van Tassel back with you. Continuing on with our recap for Week 6 of the NFL season. The next game, the New York Giants getting a big win over the Baltimore Ravens, 27-23. Of course, I watched this game. We'll go on all that in a minute, what I thought of exactly how the play was in this one. But first, the box score, Joe Flacco for the Ravens, 26 of 48, 307 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Terrence West, 23 carries, 87 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns. He was stopped inside the 5-yard line on a 4th down, however. Kenneth Dixon, 2 for 11. The team altogether 26 of 98. That's 3.8 yards per rush and the 2 touchdowns. Mike Wallace, 4 receptions for 97 yards. Kamir Aiken, 4 for 64. Brashard Perriman, 3 for 48. Zachary Orr recovered a fumble. I was early on by Odell Beckham Jr. 1 sack was Terrell Suggs in this game. Tavon Young and Will Davis both had interceptions. Nothing of note in the return games. Justin Tucker, 3 for 3 in his field goals. Eli Manning, 32 of 46, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions was at the half, the last play of the half, so you kind of throw that out there. Rashad Jennings, 9 carries for 15 yards. Bobby Rainey, 6 for 13. Paul Perkins, 2 for 10. I told you in the preview why I was picking the Giants to win this game. Odell Beckham Jr., sensational today. Give him a ton of credit. He was unstoppable, and even when Jimmy Smith went out, that was basically the end. 8 receptions, 222 yards, 27.8 yards per catch. He had a 75-yarder and 2 touchdowns, and the game-winning touchdown. Larry Donnell, 6 for 34. Victor Cruz, 3 for 31. Odell Beckham Jr. did lose that fumble on the first drive. Landon Collins had a sack. Jonathan Hankins had a sack. They had 2 sacks total. And Josh Brown, 2 for 2 in his field goals. As far as this game, there were a lot of penalties. It was actually appalling to some point how poorly the Giants started out, then how poorly Baltimore started playing. Baltimore came out, it looked like this game was over for the Giants, to be completely frank with you. Then the Giants came back. Baltimore was really struggling. They're not running the ball well. They're very inconsistent. They were helped by some penalties. One of them was a terrible call in this game, one of the worst calls I've seen. There were 2, the crowd was not happy with it. One on an interception where Baltimore got the interception, and I guess it was Sterling Shepard got up looking for the flag. I thought it was clean. Then there was one, Rogers Cromartie was step for step, grabbed the guy's arm on a deep play. I believe it was Mike Wallace. They called that, and I'm almost certain that was right when Baltimore got shut down on the 4th down, or it might have been after that. But those I didn't have a problem with. There was one that was just a terrible call where it was probably Rogers Cromartie again, was running one-on-one, had his head turned looking back, and got the penalty. That's really what kept Baltimore in this game. They had the lead, but give the Giants credit and Odell Beckham Jr. some credit as well. All right, next, the Detroit Lions, moving to 3-3 with a 31-28 victory over the Los Angeles Rams. Case Keenum, very efficient. You usually don't see that from him. 27 of 32, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Todd Gurley went over 4 yards per carry. Still not that many carries, though, and under 60 yards at 14 for 58. Benjamin Cunningham, 2 for 9. Case Keenum, 3 for 7. Altogether, the team 22 of 76, 3.5 yards per rush. Keenum had the rushing touchdown. Tavon Austin, 3 carries for 2 yards. I'm not really sure what the obsession is with Tavon Austin anymore. He's just not that good of a player. Kenny Britt, 7 for 136 in the receiving game. He's having a good season. 2 touchdowns. Brian Quick, 5 for 61. Todd Gurley, 4 for 39. Case Keenum fumbled and recovered it. The team had 1 sack. It belonged to Aaron Donald, their very good defensive tackle. No interceptions. Nothing of note in the return games or special teams for that matter. Zerline did not attempt a field goal. For the Lions, Matthew Stafford, 23 of 31, 270 yards. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Matt Stafford, hey, he looks great when he looks great. When he looks bad, he looks bad. And this was one of the games where he looked great. Zach Renner running the ball, 14 for 58. That's 4.1, the exact same as Todd Gurley. Matthew Stafford, 5 for 14. The team altogether 26 of 83. Golden Tate was the top receiver today, 8 for 165. 20.6 yards per reception. He had a touchdown. Anquan Bolden, 8 for 60. He had a touchdown. Andre Roberts was 2 for 13. Marvin Jones, who had been having a very good year, 2 for 10. They both had touchdowns. Looks like Los Angeles was trying to shut down Marvin Jones, and Matthew Stafford did what you did. You found the other guys. No fumbles. They had 1 sack. Raphael Bush had an interception. And Matt Prater made his only field goal. So Los Angeles has now lost 2 straight. They're looking up at a Seattle team that is playing as I do this video, so they could be 2 games back by the time day is complete, and maybe tied with Arizona. With Los Angeles, they have to establish Todd Gurley in the running game. They got very good play from Case Keenum today, so if they can establish that, then this team may be able to stay competitive, at least in that division, or, bare minimum for a wild card. But they got to really get Todd Gurley involved. For the Detroit Lions, it really comes down to what Matt Stafford you're going to get on a week-to-week basis. Is it going to be the type of Matt Stafford you got today? 4 touchdowns, no incompletions, didn't necessarily throw for a ton of yards, or no interceptions, that is, but certainly very efficient. They were able to get the win. Or are you going to get the Matt Stafford where he has a few interceptions, has a few fumbles? Sorry about that. And, is turning the ball over. So whatever it comes with Matt Stafford, that's what's going to happen with this team. We'll have to see how it develops from this point forward. But that's a nice victory for the Detroit Lions today. All right. The Tennessee Titans, now 3-3 and suddenly in that division race with a 28-26 victory over the hapless. Hapless is probably kind at this point. Cleveland Browns 28-26 as they dropped to 0-6. Cody Kessler 26 of 41, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Terrell Pryor threw a pass in this game. I believe he left with a lacerated kidney. Duke Johnson Jr., 4 carries for 18 yards, 4.5 yards per rush, a touchdown. Isaiah Crowell, 9 for 16. The team 15 of 40, 2.7 yards per rush. The touchdown by Duke Johnson Jr. Terrell Pryor, 9 for 75 receiving, 2 touchdowns. Ricardo Lewis, 5 for 65. Gary Barnidge, 3 for 59. No fumbles. Only 2 sacks. Tramon Williams did have an interception. Cody Parkey was 2 for 2 in his field goals. For the Tennessee Titans, Marcus Mariota, very, very efficient, very good. 17 of 24, 284 yards, so he was extending the ball downfield. 3 touchdowns, did have 1 interception. We'll see real quick before we move on. Did not have any fumbles, though, so the 1 interception, hey, it happens sometimes, but he's been playing well these last couple weeks. Let's see if he's establishing himself. DeMarco Murray, 21 of 65. That's only 3.1 yards per rush. Did have a touchdown. Marcus Mariota, 7 of 64, 9.1 yards per rush. Altogether, the team 31 of 137. Kendall Wright, 8 for 133 receiving. Rashard Matthews, 3 for 70. They both had touchdowns. Anthony Fasano had a 15-yard touchdown. Yes, Anthony Fasano from New Jersey. 6 sacks for the Tennessee Titans. Very good there. Let's see who had some of those. Derek Morgan, a good player. Jarrell Casey, of course. Brian Rackbo had one. So the usual suspects there. Nothing of note in the return games. Ryan Suckup missed a field goal. For Cleveland, what can you say? They're just not a good team. I could try to go into it as best I can. You have Terrell Pryor throwing passes. You have a struggling defense. You have an offensive line that is supposed to be one of the stronger units on this team, giving up 6 sacks. So, what can you do? Tennessee, Marcus Mariota. This division is certainly up for grabs, and I like that DeMarco Murray was not great today, but they stuck with it. Still was over 3 yards per carry with DeMarco Murray, and I think that allowed Marcus Mariota to be able to open up some runs for him. So, Tennessee, give them credit for a nice win, getting their first home win, and we'll see from now on what noise they can make in that division, because it's certainly wide open, as we just said, and Marcus Mariota, as long as he can stop with the turnovers, we'll have to see what this team's offensively can do and if they can stretch their legs. New England, it was close for a little, even though I picked Cincinnati. They really hammered it to the Bengals today, 35-17. For the Bengals, Andy Dalton, 21 of 31, 254 yards, 1 touchdown. Giovanni Bernard, 15 of 49 running, 3.3 yards per rush. Jeremy Hill, 13 of 38. The team altogether, 32 carries of 120 yards. That's 3.8 yards per rush. They had a touchdown. It was Andy Dalton, who had 2 for 17. That's 8.5, and Rex Burkhead had 2 for 16. So you take those carries off, and the run per average is well below 3 yards. AJ Green, 6 for 88, held in check. He's really been held in check this season. Tyler Boyd, 4 for 79. Giovanni Bernard, 4 for 45 receiving. No fumbles. They had 3 sacks. Pat Sims had one of them. Michael Johnson had one. And Vontez Bursovic had another. Mike Nugent 1 for 1 in his field goals. Tom Brady, wow, 29 of 35, 376 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interception. That's Tom Brady for you folks. He's great. LeGarrette Blount, 13 carries, 50 yards, 3.8 yards per rush, a touchdown. James White, 7 of 19. The team, 23 of 79, 3.4 yards per rush. So not good running the ball, and that included an 8-yard run by Julian Edelman in the average. Rob Gronkowski getting back to form, 7 receptions, 162 yards, 23.1 yards per reception, 1 touchdown. Martellus Bennett, 5 for 48. James White, 8 of 47. He had 2 touchdowns. No fumbles. 2 sacks. Dante Hightower had 1.5 of them. Nothing really of note in the return games. Julian Edelman, 3 for 49 punt returns. That's pretty good. Stephen Gostkowski, 2 for 2. Cincinnati's got a lot of work to do. I thought they'd get this win, but I discussed in the season preview, this may be the year Cincinnati starts to slide. New England now firing on all cylinders with Tom Brady back. Boy, is he good. That's just what you get from this guy. Just a very, very sound quarterback who makes plays. All right, trying to find the box score for the next one was Carolina and New Orleans. New Orleans winning that game 41-38. Carolina now drops to 1-5. New Orleans 2-3, trying to stay competitive. Obviously, a lot of offense in this game. For the Panthers, Cam Newton, 27 of 47, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jonathan Stewart, 19 carries, 85 yards. With him back, they established the run. He had 2 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per rush. The team, 27 of 103. Cam Newton, 2 carries for 1 yards, but he did have a rushing touchdown. Greg Olsen, the old familiar faces, 6 for 94 in the receiving game. Kelvin Benjamin, 8 for 86. Ted Ginn Jr., 5 for 54. Corey Brown lost a fumble. They only had 1 sack, and it was a split sack. Teddy Williams had an interception. Graham Gano made his only field goal. For the New Orleans Saints, as you would expect, Drew Brees put up some big numbers in this game. 34 of 49, 465 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. New Orleans can certainly pass the ball. That's not the questions I have with this team. Mark Ingram, 16 for 51. Altogether, the team, 21 of 63 running the ball. That's 3 yards per rush. A touchdown by Kobe Fleener running the ball. Brandon Crooks, 7 for 173, 24.7 yards per reception. Michael Thomas, 5 for 78. Kobe Fleener, 6 for 74. All of them had touchdowns. Josh Hill, 2 for 23, also had a touchdown. Craig Robertson recovered a fumble. The team had 2 sacks. Sterling Moore had an interception. And Will Lutz was 2 for 3 in his field goals, including the game winner, obviously. Carolina, 1-5 teams really just don't make the playoffs. I'm not sure what has happened with this team. You had the Cam Newton injury. You had the injuries to Jonathan Stewart. But frankly, there still have got to be a better team than that for a team that went to the Super Bowl last year with the injuries. I know that really affects the offense, the way they like to do things, but hey, you can't have this. Defensively, they've been terrible this year as well. Is the loss of Josh Norman that big of a role? It shouldn't be, and I think Josh Norman is a fine player, but you see that today. As for New Orleans, they can put up points with the best of them, but I don't see it really manifesting itself into anything this season, despite my high regard for Drew Brees. All right, so we'll be back in a little bit, giving you part 3 of the recap for Week 6. Be sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much.